The morning light in Lisbon is different. It's softer than the harsh, angular sunlight that slices between skyscrapers in New York. Here it spills over the terracotta rooftops like warm honey, catching the pastel colors of the buildings and making the whole city glow. My apartment is on an upper floor, and from my balcony I can see the Tagus River glinting in the distance. This is the first thing I do every morning. I make a coffee, a real one, from a local roaster down the street, and I stand on the balcony for 10 minutes just breathing it all in. The air smells of salt from the river and sweet pastry from the padaria below. The sounds are a gentle hum of trams, the murmur of Portuguese, the distant cry of a gull. This is my peace. This is the life I built. I'm Felix Smith. I'm 26 years old, and for the last 6 months, this has been my home. My official title is Senior Software Developer. My company is based in New York City, but my contract is fully remote. This means my commute is a 10-step walk from the kitchen to the spare room I've converted into a home office. It's my sanctuary within a sanctuary. The setup is exactly how I want it. 2 large monitors, an ergonomic chair that cost a small fortune but was worth every penny, and a clean, minimalist desk. There are no stacks of paper, no clutter. Just the tools I need to do my job. On the wall, there's a large abstract painting I bought from a street artist in the Alfama district. It's a swirl of deep blues and bright yellows, and it feels like the city itself. It's the first piece of real art I've ever owned. My life here has a rhythm. I work from about 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon local time. My team in New York is just starting their day as I'm wrapping mine up, so there's a perfect overlap for meetings and collaboration. I'm good at my job. I've always been good at it. I graduated with a degree in computer science when I was 22 and landed a great position right out of the gate. For 4 years, I worked hard, saved aggressively, and proved my worth. That's what made all of this possible. Not an inheritance, not a handout. Just my own work, my own savings, my own plan. This apartment, this life, the very air I'm breathing, I earned it. After work, the city is mine to explore. Sometimes I'll take a tram to a neighborhood I haven't seen, yet getting lost in the winding cobblestone streets. Other days, I'll meet up with a few friends. I've made other expats, a couple of locals, for a drink at a kiosk bar in one of the city's many beautiful squares. I'm learning the language slowly but surely. I can order food, ask for directions, and have simple conversations. Every small victory, every successful interaction feels like laying another stone in the foundation of this new life. It's a life that is completely, unequivocally mine. This stands in stark contrast to the life I left behind, the one where I was a son first and an individual second, the one where my weekends weren't my own but belonged to a 2-hour train ride from my apartment in New York City to my parents' house in a suburb of Hartford, Connecticut, a journey I was expected to make not just on holidays, not just once a month, but every single weekend. Today is October 1st. It marks exactly 6 months since I boarded a one-way flight to Lisbon, leaving that life behind. And right on cue, as if they have a calendar alarm set for my scheduled moment of peace, a notification pops up on my laptop screen. It's a video call from them. My heart does a familiar little stutter step. It's a conditioned response I've been trying to unlearn. For a moment, I'm tempted to ignore it. Just let it ring. But I know that will only lead to a barrage of texts and voicemails, each one more passive-aggressive than the last. It's easier to face the music, get it over with, and reclaim my evening. I take a deep breath, run a hand through my hair, and click accept. Their faces fill the screen. My mother, Helen, age 56, her expression a practiced mask of cheerful concern. My father, Robert, age 58, standing slightly behind her arms, crossed with a look that's perpetually appraising, perpetually disappointed. They're in their living room, the same living room I've seen my entire life. The beige walls, the dark wood furniture, the framed family photos on the mantelpiece, a museum of a life I was supposed to seamlessly inherit. Felix. There you are, my mother chirps. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. We were starting to worry. Hi, Mom, hi, Dad, I say, keeping my voice level and calm. I was just finishing up some work. Everything's fine. "You look thin, honey," she says, leaning closer to her webcam as if she could diagnose my nutritional status through the pixels. "Are you eating properly over there? All that foreign food." I resist the urge to roll my eyes. "Yes, Mom, the food is amazing and I'm eating plenty of it. I'm healthy." My father scoffs lightly from the background. It's a sound I know well. It's the overture to a lecture. Healthy isn't the only thing that matters. "Felix, how's the extended holiday going? Has the company said anything about when they expect you back in the main office?" He knows the answer. We've had this exact conversation at least a dozen times in the last 6 months. He refuses to accept the reality of my situation. In his mind, I'm not a senior developer with a permanent remote contract. I'm a kid on an overly long study abroad trip. "Dad, we've been over this. It's not a holiday, it's my life. The contract is remote. There is no back in the office for me." For now, he says the words sharp and dismissive. These tech companies are fickle. They'll change their minds. You can't build a real career from an ocean away. This is their strategy. My mother uses emotional guilt. My father uses professional doubt. It's a pincer movement they've perfected over the years. They try to undermine my confidence in my own choices to make me feel small and foolish, to make me believe that my independence is a fragile illusion that will shatter without their guidance. For years it worked, but it doesn't work anymore. My career is going great, actually. I say my tone bright and firm. I'm leading a new project and the time difference works to our advantage. I get a lot of focused work done before the New York team even logs on. My mother sighs a theatrical, long-suffering sound. "That's nice, dear, but we miss you. Your room is exactly as you left it. It feels so empty here without you on the weekends." The word weekends hangs in the air between us, heavy and toxic. It's the core of our conflict. The reason I'm 3,400 miles away. The reason I had to detonate my life and rebuild it on another continent. They see the flicker of something in my expression because my father presses the advantage. "Your mother has a point. It's been 6 months. Don't you think it's about time you stopped this vacation and came home?" There it is, the real question. The one that lies beneath all the fake concern about my diet and the condescension about my job. It's not, "How are you?" It's, "When are you coming back under our control?" They don't see a 26-year-old man living his own life. They see their 22-year-old son, fresh out of college, who lived just a short train ride away. They see a possession that has temporarily misplaced itself. My jaw tightens. I force a polite, empty smile. "Well, it was great to see you both. I've got to run. I'm meeting some friends for dinner. It's a lie, but it's a necessary one. It's a boundary." My mother's face falls. "Oh, already we barely got to talk." "We can talk again soon," I say already, moving my cursor toward the end call button. "Love you." "We love you too, Felix," my father says, his voice flat. "Think about what we said." I click the button before they can say anything else. The screen goes blank and their faces vanish. My apartment is silent again. I lean back in my chair and let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. My hands are clenched into fists. I consciously unfurl them finger by finger. The tension in my shoulders is a familiar ache. It's the price of contact. Every call, no matter how brief, is like a little dose of poison. It seeps in and sours the peace I've worked so hard to create. I stand up and walk back out to the balcony. The sun is lower now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city is transitioning from the day to the evening. Lights are beginning to flicker on in windows across the way. It's beautiful, it's real, and it's mine. This life, this city, this apartment, it's not a whim. It's not a phase or a vacation. It's a fortress. Every piece of furniture I bought, every new phrase I learned, every friend I made was another stone in the wall. A wall I had to build to protect myself from their relentless expectations, from their belief that my life was just an extension of theirs. They think the distance is a game, a temporary tantrum. They think if they just apply enough pressure, the walls will crumble, and I'll come running back. They have no idea how strong my fortress is, because I didn't just build it to keep them out. I built it to keep myself in, safe and free. The stress of the call fades slowly like the lingering heat of a sunburn. I make myself a simple dinner pasta with pesto and eat it on the balcony, watching the swallows dip and weave through the twilight. The air is cool and smells faintly of the sea and roasted chestnuts from a vendor down the street. This is my ritual, a way of reclaiming my space, of washing their influence out of my apartment and out of my head. For 4 years, my weekends weren't my own. They were a countdown to a mandatory 2-hour train ride back to a life I was trying to leave. A life where I was still just their son, a satellite in their orbit with no schedule or desires that couldn't be overridden by theirs. Here, my time is mine. My evenings are mine. My peace is mine, and I guard it fiercely. After I clean up, I settle onto my sofa with my laptop, intending to watch a movie and let the last dregs of anxiety dissolve. But as the screen glows to life, a notification pings in the corner, an email. My stomach does a familiar little flip-flop. It's from my father Robert. I almost archive it without reading, but the subject line catches my eye. It's 4 simple words: your mother's birthday. A wave of preemptive exhaustion washes over me. I know this isn't a simple heads up. With my parents, nothing is simple. It's always a chess move, a strategy. I click it open. The email is exactly as I expected. It's short, blunt, and devoid of any warmth. There's no, "Hi Felix," no, "Hope you're doing well." It just gets straight to the point, written with the efficiency of a corporate memo. Felix, your mother. Helen's birthday is in 3 weeks on the 22nd. The family will be celebrating that weekend. We expect you to be here. Book your flights accordingly and let us know your arrival time so we can arrange to be home. That's it. That's the whole email. We expect you to be here. Not "we'd love for you to be here," or "is there any chance you could make it?" It's a summons, a command, an instruction written as if I still lived in my New York apartment a 2-hour train ride away. As if hopping on a 7-hour transatlantic flight dealing with a 5-hour time difference and spending thousands of dollars was the equivalent of buying a Metro North ticket. The sheer breathtaking arrogance of it leaves me speechless for a moment. They haven't just ignored the 3,400 miles of ocean between us, they've willfully erased it from existence. In their minds, I haven't moved. I'm just farther away. And my distance is an inconvenience to them, a logistical problem that I am expected to solve. Reading those words, "We expect you." It's like a key turning in a lock I had forgotten was there. The present dissolves, and I'm hurtling back in time 7 months. It's March. I'm in my old apartment in New York. The radiator is hissing, and outside a cold rain is streaking down the window pane. I'm on the phone with them. It was a Sunday night, I remember that clearly. The weekend was over, and I was already dreading the next one. I hadn't gone home that weekend. I'd told them I had a major project deadline and needed to work. It was a lie. I just needed a break. I needed one weekend, just one that belonged to me. "We were just so disappointed, Felix." My mother's voice crackled over the speakerphone. "We had the pot roast on. Your father was looking forward to seeing you." "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice even. Like I said, work was just insane this week. I had to get it done. "There's always an excuse, isn't there?" My father Robert cut in. His voice was sharper, colder. "You were just here 2 weeks ago." I pointed out my patience starting to fray. "It's not like I never visit." 2 weeks is a long time," Helen said. "We're your parents. It's not a big ask for you to come home on the weekends. It's what a family does." This was our usual dance. The slow, grinding conversation that always ended with me feeling guilty and them feeling righteous. But that night, something was different. The pressure was higher, their tone more insistent. "It is a big ask." I finally said the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "It's 4 hours of travel round trip. It's my entire weekend. I have a life here. I have friends. I have errands, laundry, groceries. I need time to just exist. To recharge before another week at work." There was a silence on the other end of the line, a heavy, disapproving silence. Then my father spoke again, and all pretense of friendly conversation was gone. "This isn't about your laundry, Felix. This is about respect. This is about your priorities. For 4 years since you graduated, we have been very patient. We supported your decision to live in the city, but your life there seems to be making you forget where you come from. Forgetting I talk to you guys all the time, I visit constantly. It's not enough," he stated as if it were an undeniable law of physics. "From now on, we expect you home, every weekend. Friday evening train, Sunday evening train back. No more excuses about being busy." I actually laughed. A short, sharp, incredulous bark. "You can't be serious. Every weekend, that's insane. I'm 25 years old. I have my own life." "You have a life because we gave you one." He shot back, his voice rising. "We paid for that fancy computer science degree that allows you to have that apartment. We raised you. We are owed this time. It is the absolute minimum you can do to show your gratitude." My blood ran cold. The mention of my degree, the implication that my entire adult life was a debt I had to repay them in installments of my own time, it was suffocating. "I am grateful," I said, my voice tight, "but my weekends are my own. I'm not going to be a commuter to my own childhood." "Then you need to seriously reconsider your position," he said, his tone dropping to a low, menacing calm. "This isn't a negotiation. This is how it's going to be. You will be here every weekend. If you decide that's too much for you, then you can also decide what it feels like to be truly on your own. No family support, no safety net, nothing. You think you're an adult? Fine. Let's see how you do when the family that built you decides you're no longer part of it." The threat hung in the air, unspoken, but crystal clear. Disinheritance, disownment. Not just emotionally, but financially. It was a nuclear option, a gun to my head. And for what? So they could have their son home for dinner every single weekend to maintain the illusion that nothing had changed, that I hadn't grown up and built a life of my own 2 hours away. I stood there in my apartment, the rain tapping against the glass, and I felt the walls closing in. It wasn't about love or missing me. It was about control. It was about possession. I was their asset, and I was underperforming. "I have to go," I whispered, my throat tight. "Think very carefully about your next decision, Felix," my father said. "We'll expect you on Friday." Then he hung up. I stood in the silence for a long time. That was the moment. That was the inciting incident. The final ultimatum that broke something inside me. They didn't want a relationship. They wanted obedience. They didn't want a son. They wanted a subject who would present himself for inspection every weekend. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't just say no. Saying no would just lead to an endless war of attrition with guilt trips, angry calls, and constant emotional blackmail. I couldn't win by fighting on their terms. The only way to win was to change the game entirely. The only way to escape their control was to move beyond their reach. The idea, which had been a half-formed fantasy, a daydream of escape, solidified into a concrete plan. I had the savings. I had a remote-friendly job. The next day, Monday, I started the process. I talked to my boss. I researched visas. I looked at apartments in Lisbon. 1 month later, I was gone. Now sitting on my sofa in Lisbon, the glow of the laptop screen illuminating my face, I look at my father's email again. It's the same ultimatum, just repackaged. The same demand for obedience. The same complete disregard for my life, my autonomy, my reality. That phone call 7 months ago was them drawing a line in the sand. My move to Portugal was me stepping over it and walking away. This email, this demand to fly home for a weekend, is their attempt to pull me back across that line. It's a test, a probe against the walls of my fortress. They're checking for weaknesses. They want to see if 6 months of playing grown-up, as they call it, has softened my resolve. They want to see if I'm lonely, if I'm scared, if I'm ready to capitulate and prove that my father was right all along, that I can't make it without them. A slow anger, cold and clear, burns away the exhaustion. I'm not that scared 25-year-old on the phone anymore. I'm a 26-year-old man who crossed an ocean to buy his own freedom, and I'm not giving it back for the price of a plane ticket and a slice of birthday cake. He wants me to book my flights accordingly. Fine. I will act accordingly. according to my own terms, according to my own life. I move my cursor, my hand perfectly steady, and click reply. My reply was short, professional, and devoid of the emotion churning inside me. I typed it out with the same dispassionate clarity you'd use to close a bug report. Dear Dad, it began. Thank you for the invitation for Mom's birthday. Unfortunately, a transatlantic flight for a single weekend isn't feasible either logistically or financially. Please wish her a very happy 56th birthday from me, and I hope you all have a wonderful celebration. Best, Felix. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. There was no apology, no room for negotiation. It was a statement of fact. A polite, ironclad no. The response didn't come from my father. It came from my mother, and it didn't come via email. Within an hour, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from my mother, Helen, the first of many. Just saw your email to your father. I don't understand, Felix. It's my birthday. I read it and set the phone down. A few minutes later, it buzzed again. Are you really not coming? All I wanted was to have my family together. And again, your father and I are so worried about you. This isn't like you. Being so far away is changing you. The messages were a masterclass in maternal guilt. Each one was a carefully crafted needle, aimed directly at the heart of a son's sense of duty. She painted a picture of a heartbroken mother weeping over a birthday cake, her only son abandoning her for the nightlife of some foreign city. It was a narrative designed to make me feel small, selfish, and cruel. For the next 2 days, it was a constant low-grade assault, little pings of disappointment and sorrow sent from 3,400 miles away. Then my father re-entered the arena. An email landed in my inbox, the subject line simply reading, "Your behavior." It was no longer about a birthday party. It was a character assassination. He wrote about my mother's tears, about my lack of gratitude, about my shocking selfishness. He said he didn't understand what had happened to the respectful son they had raised. He wrote, "You seem to think this little European vacation of yours absolves you of your familial responsibilities. It does not. Your mother is 56, not 36. These moments are precious, and you are throwing them away out of some childish need to prove a point." And then came the line that was meant to end it, the subtle twist of the knife he'd already put in my back 7 months ago. You would do well to remember that a family is a system of mutual support. If you willfully choose to remove yourself from that system, you cannot expect the benefits of it to be there for you when you finally decide to come to your senses. The disinheritance threat. Dressed up in fancy language, but it was the same ugly weapon. They were still treating me like I was that 22-year-old kid fresh out of university who might be terrified by the prospect of being cut off. They had no idea that I had spent the last 4 years building a life where that threat was meaningless. My money was my own. My career was my own. My home was my own. The only power they had left was emotional, and they were squeezing it for all it was worth. They still saw me as their dependent, just one, who happened to be a 2-hour train ride away. They simply could not or would not process the reality of the Atlantic Ocean. They saw it as an inconvenience I was creating, not a fact I was living. I looked at the string of texts from my mother and the scathing email from my father. This wasn't a disagreement. It was a campaign, a coordinated attack designed to break me down and force my compliance. And I realized with a surge of cold fury that this would never end. If I didn't stop it now, my entire life would be an endless cycle of unreasonable demands, followed by punishment when I failed to meet them. They weren't going to stop, so I had to. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over their contact info. I wasn't going to text. I wasn't going to email. This required a confrontation. I initiated a video call. It took them a moment to answer, and when they did, their faces appeared on my screen, sitting side by side on the familiar sofa in their living room in Connecticut. They looked stern, composed, like 2 judges about to deliver a verdict. "Felix," my father said, his voice clipped. "We were just talking about you." "I'm sure you were," I said, keeping my own voice level. "I'm calling because we need to talk about this birthday invitation." My mother's face softened into a mask of sorrow. "Oh, Felix, please just say you'll come." We can figure out the flight. It would mean the world to me. No, I said, and the word hung in the digital space between us. I'm not coming, and I need to understand why you are refusing to accept that. I live on another continent. I am a 26-year-old man with a full-time job. A weekend trip from Lisbon to Hartford is not a reasonable request. It is frankly absurd. Why are you pretending it isn't? My father scoffed. Absurd. What's absurd is a son telling his mother he can't be bothered to show up for her birthday. This isn't about logistics, it's about respect. It's about family. It's entirely about logistics. I shot back my frustration, finally boiling over. It's about an 8-hour flight, a 5-hour time difference, and over $1,000 in airfare. It's about the physical reality of where I live, a reality you are deliberately ignoring. You are still treating me like I'm in my old New York apartment a simple train ride away. Maybe if you hadn't run off to the other side of the world in the first place, this wouldn't be an issue. My mother cried, her voice cracking. And that's when I saw it. The opening, the core of the entire issue. So that's it, isn't it? I said, my voice dropping. This isn't about a birthday. This is punishment for me moving. My father's face hardened, his jaw tight. He leaned into the camera. This is about you coming to your senses. We gave you 6 months. We were patient. We let you have your little adventure. I stared at him, confused. Let me. You let me. I'm an adult. I don't need your permission. And then he said it. The words that laid their entire strategy bare. The words that would change everything. We thought 6 months of playing grown-up would be enough. He snarled, his voice raw with fury. This was supposed to make you realize you need your family. It was supposed to get this nonsense out of your system so you'd give up and come back home where you belong. The air went out of my lungs. My mother looked down, refusing to meet my eyes, her silence a confession. It was never about my happiness. It was never about supporting my career or my life choices. My move to Lisbon, the single biggest and bravest decision of my life, was in their eyes a temporary tantrum, a phase. They had been waiting, counting the days, expecting me to fail. They believed that if they just applied enough pressure, made enough demands, and induced enough guilt, I would eventually pack my bags and come running back to Connecticut defeated. This whole thing, the birthday, the texts, the emails, it was a loyalty test designed for me to fail, proving their cynical theory that I couldn't survive without them. A strange, chilling calm washed over me. The anger vanished, replaced by a profound and sorrowful clarity. I was no longer in an argument with my parents. I was looking at two people who didn't even see me. They saw a possession that had moved itself without authorization. I leaned back from my screen. I looked at them, at their angry, expectant faces, and I felt nothing but pity. Wow, I said the word barely a whisper. You didn't want a son. You wanted a subject. I am not your subject. Before they could respond, I moved my cursor and ended the call. The screen went black, and I was left in the silence of my apartment, the evening light of Lisbon filtering through the window. The sense of betrayal was immense, but underneath it was something else, liberation. The last thread of guilt, the last vestige of childish obligation, had just been incinerated. They had given me an incredible, terrible gift, the absolute certainty that I had done the right thing. I didn't hesitate. I opened up my email, composed a new message, and sent it to both of them. It was the shortest email I'd ever written. My life in Lisbon is my permanent home. As you have made it clear you do not respect my autonomy, I will not be engaging in further communication until you are prepared to acknowledge me as an independent adult. Do not contact me. Then I went into my phone settings and blocked my mother's number. I blocked my father's number. I went into my email client and created a filter to send anything from their known addresses directly to the trash unread. I severed the connection. The 6 months of strained, tense communication had just become a deliberate, total, and indefinite silence. I had built a fortress, and now I was pulling up the drawbridge. The weeks that followed were the quietest of my life. My mother's 56th birthday came and went. I didn't send a gift. I didn't make a call. There was a phantom limb of habit, a ghost of a feeling that I should be doing something, but I pushed it away. It was a necessary casualty in the war for my own life, and in the silence they had forced me to create, I found a peace I hadn't realized I was missing. Without the constant low-level dread of the next guilt-inducing text or demanding email, my life in Lisbon blossomed. I was no longer just an expat existing abroad. I was home. I solidified friendships, turning acquaintances into my new family. I explored the coast on weekends. I finally felt the ground beneath my feet solid and real, because it was ground I had chosen, a life I had built free from the crushing gravity of their expectations. 3 months passed. Autumn turned to winter, and then one morning an email slipped through my filters. It was from a new address I didn't recognize, one my mother must have created. The subject line was just my name, Felix. My heart hammered against my ribs. For a moment I considered deleting it without reading, but curiosity, or perhaps some deeper instinct, made me click it open. The email was empty save for 3 words. "We miss you." I stared at the sentence for a long time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an admission of guilt or a promise to change. But it was a concession. It was a white flag. The demands, the anger, the threats, the manipulation, all of it was gone, stripped away, leaving only a simple, desperate statement of emotion. For the first time, they weren't telling me what to do or who to be. They were just telling me how they felt. And in that moment, I knew I had won. The victory wasn't in their surrender. It was in my own freedom. I had taken full and final ownership of my life. They had tried to pull me back across the line they'd drawn in the sand, but I had moved to a new continent where their lines had no meaning. The power was mine now, the power to answer or not, the power to decide if a new relationship could be built from the rubble of the old one, and the absolute, unquestionable authority to dictate the terms. I closed the laptop, a slow smile spreading across my face. Outside, the bells of a Lisbon church began to ring. And for the first time, they sounded like they were ringing for me.